Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Aparuthade sangama tassa tavaraye sorvanta bamunchantu satang. Well, this afternoon I've been invited to give the Sunday talk, and and already Ajahn Sumedho has said all that needs to be said. The way it is. But it's interesting, like, to understand the use of language, because, our own native tongues, the language that we learn from our parents, from our original society, is what we pick it up when we think we understand how to use it, and we think we know it. But as we get older, we find we just take for granted our use, the way we think or speak, say, with the English language. And the way it is isn't, notice that it's merely a statement or a pointing. It's not a description of anything. It's not about how anything should be or ought to be or shouldn't be, but it's not a kind of passive resignation either, but it's a noticing the present moment as is like this. And this way of using this simple statement is, for those who are interested in Dhamma and developing insight, it's how we allow things to be what they are without our continuous interference with our thinking process, with our ideas of how things should be or shouldn't be, or whether we like them or don't like them, or agree or disagree. Now, most of us are educated to we all know, most of us, I assume everybody here knows how things should be, and or how we would like them to be or want them to be, and we also are very much aware of how we don't want them to be, how they shouldn't be. But the way it is a pointing at this moment, right now. We're all sitting here in the temple. It's like this. It's not saying that it should be anyway, but it's like this. And that brings us back to the present. We're suddenly observing. You're sitting, your body is sitting like this, breathing, your mind, your mental state, your emotional condition of this moment is like this. And notice it's just pointing. It's not a description or making a statement about anything, but it's a useful term to observe. And when you realize the Buddha never ever asked why things are the way they are. Why am I like this? Why do I get angry? Why do I feel fear? Why am I afraid of ghosts? Why does the world have to be like this? And it's not, he never asks why, he's just pointing to the way things are, to phenomena. Phenomena is like this, it's changing, it's anicca, dukkha, anatta. It's impermanent, changing, unsatisfying in itself because it has no sustainability. You can't, even the best conditions can't sustain themselves on that level of being the best. And then it's non-self. It's not something that that we think it is. When we think our body is myself, this is my own body, then that's a condition I create. I didn't create my ego, the sense of me. Robert Jackman was what my mother named me. Sumedho Bhikkhu is what my upachaya named me. And so these names came after I was born. And then this pointing to the way things are is all we need to know, that all conditions are impermanent. Now that sounds quite too simple to be true, because when you look at the scriptures, you know, the Tripitaka is huge. It's like this, and I think there's so much to learn about Buddhism, you know, and it's so complicated. You've got the suttas and the Vinaya, and then you've got the commentaries and the Abhidhamma, and it goes on and on into, you know, an endless proliferating condition and words and concepts and so forth, that when we look at it from that level, it looks very complicated. But when you're practicing meditation, when you're doing the bhatipata, or the practice of the Four Noble Truths, it's about ultimate simplicity, because ultimately the Buddha isn't making any statement about the quality or how things should or shouldn't be, but pointing to the way they are. And so we can use this wherever we are, in whatever state of mind we're in, whether we're healthy or sickly, young or old, male or female. I mean, it's not a matter of shoulds or ought to or shouldn't, but it's the way it is. So notice our culture, we're interested in ourselves, or why do I have these problems? Why does the world have to be like this? Why can't everybody just get along? Why can't people just love each other instead of killing each other? And why? You know, it's like a child, you know, a little boy or girl, when they grow up, they're always asking why. And then the Buddha isn't interested in why. So our way of practice then is just observing, noting the changingness of the conditions that one is experiencing in this moment. It's not like grasping the idea of change and then aligning, or, you know, thinking you understand impermanence because you understand the word. That's not it. It's the invitation to observe change. And that what sati sampatanya allows us to do. Mindfulness, clear comprehension. Sati is our ability to center ourselves in the present, here and now. It's like this. Sampatanya is the kind of ability to apperceive, to know perception that is present in consciousness at this time, is like this. Whatever it might be. It can be an emotion, you know, like a strong emotion, or just a confusion, doubt, worry. So much of modern life is about worry, anxiety, doubt, insecurity, not knowing what to do, what's wrong. And then we have the more strong passions like anger, aversion, hatred, and strong emotions of greed, wanting the best, the highest quality, sexual desire, wanting to always get caught up into sexual fantasies and longings, desire for pleasure, desire for excitement, desire for adventure, romance. Now, our way of relating to all this is not that we don't have these desires, but we are observing them. So this is a statement saying we're not desire. No matter how many desires you have, they're really not. They're just desires. They come and go. And if you don't reflect on the way they are, then you're constantly juggling your mind, thinking I shouldn't have these longings, these desires, I shouldn't feel anger, I shouldn't hate people, I shouldn't feel jealous, I shouldn't be frightened. Like for men, we like to appear brave, at least my generation. I'm from the old Luddite period of Neanderthal, and it's a kind of macho generation, where boys don't cry, and you have to appear, like you're not weak and wishy-washy, and you learn how to sustain or think you're doing, an ability to create the illusion of not being frightened. But fear is a primal emotion. I mean, if we didn't have fear, we wouldn't last very long. It's a necessary emotion. There's a lot to be afraid of. I mean, considering what life is like on this planet, just how delicate your human body is. It doesn't have a tough hide like a rhinoceros or anything. You're easily damaged, bruised. We're very vulnerable. We don't have great ability to run that fast. Even Usain Bolt gets injured now, and I don't know if he could outrun a gazelle or anything like that. So I mean, we've got our limitation within the human form. Monkeys can swing from trees and climb up and run away from things, but I've never been able to really do that very well, even when I was young. So recognize that there's a lot, that could happen, just natural catastrophes. It's not like you're neurotic or there's something wrong with you for being frightened. It's just to recognize that when the conditions arise, you're not frightened all the time. It's not a permanent state of mind, but when the conditions for it are here, then this is what you're feeling. When the conditions for anger or aversion arise, this is the result, what we call anger. And for greed, when the conditions for greed, there's this desire for something you don't have. And then the desire to get rid of things. Oftentimes we have thoughts, emotions that we don't want, and we want to get rid of them. So I just found it very helpful to really investigate, observe, not from the position of personal identity with desire, but to observe desire as an object in consciousness. Tanha is the Pali word for what we translate into English as desire. And tanha is like desire in English always has kind of pejorative connotation. If you say someone has a lot of desires, you're not exactly flattering them. It's not a virtue to be a person with a lot of desires. But desire can be even virtuous, desire to be really good, desire to help all sentient beings, desire to, it can be very altruistic, as well as, just desires for power and control and that kind of thing. So these desires are to be observed, the way they are. They are the way they are. Desire is like this. And so the way it is not a statement about desire, the quality or the quantity, but the recognition that at this moment, desire for sensory pleasures like this, desire for becoming something, like so many meditators, people that practice meditation want to become stream enterers or have good concentration, want to get somewhere, want to have a high level of samadhi and so forth, the desire for very good things. And then there's a desire to get rid of your crazy mind, your monkey mind, the mind that rattles on and disrupts your practice, or the bad memories that arise, or whatever, desire to get rid of them. But what is desire then? It's an energy. It comes, arises, and it ceases. And then I always ask myself, can desire know desire? Is it a desire that I'm saying the way it is the desire to know desire? Or we don't have to, we don't have to desire desire. Desire comes and goes. It's the way it is. And our relationship to desire, to dana, is knowing it is like this, the way it is. Like today is a beautiful day, and it's very privileged for this many people to come and celebrate an old man of 80 years old. And it's opportunity to offer dana. You've been incredibly generous in so many ways. The lay communities, come here to make offerings to the Sangha. And that's saying, if it's based just on desire, to get something out of it, do you come to make merit so that the next life you'll be born in a higher place? Well, that's giving dana or offerings with a desire to be rewarded in the future. But we can observe that. That's desire, wanting to do something now, and then maybe in the next life I'll be reborn as in one of the higher realms. Like I wouldn't mind being born in a Brahma realm, or even in the Dusit realm wouldn't be so bad. Be better than this realm, I think. Because this realm, you got to deal with the human body, which is, and Dusita Deva, has an ethereal body. They never have to urinate or defecate or have to deal with the unpleasant side of the physical world. You have ethereal bodies. And I don't really know enough about them to have strong views about whether they have such problems, indigestion or... But it does, in ways that we think, if you're stuck with a human body like this, then it does seem like Dusita Devas don't cough even, But in terms of Dhamma practice, enlightenment, seeing things as they are, breaking through the delusions of conditioned phenomena, it's considered this human birth is the most auspicious one, because it's not good enough. We have a lot of deva qualities. We like refinements and ethereal experiences, and we have a sense for beauty, love of beauty, and things like this, so that we have that longing maybe to live in a realm of refinement and beauty, which we maybe try to recreate as a human being. Why we want to get so much money and have a beautiful home and so forth, to to make our life as refined and as pleasant as possible for these human forms. But inevitably, being human, having a human body is like this. It's not a deva's body. It's more like an animal, the animal's body. But our ability to reflect on it, to observe, to be the knower of it rather than the owner of it. Like the unenlightened, unaware human being, fully committed to the idea that the body's me, that it goes unquestioned. And we have passports. And last year, I was in Thailand at Wat Nanachat, and I went to have my meal in the sala, and during that time somebody came into my kuti and took both my passports. I have British and American passports. They took my Baisuti, my monk's passport, and they took my iPad. And my iPod. So when I got back, I was only gone for about an hour and a half, and I came back, and somebody left one of the doors was unlocked, and so the thief got in and managed to take all this stuff away. And but didn't have to break in. There's no sign, visible sign. And, when I went back to Kuti, then I suddenly noticed, where's my iPad? And then I looked for him. I thought, man, must be stolen. And then I looked in the desk and my passport. They were both together in a case, and they were taken. So then, passports are what, verify that we are somebody, and then I have a birth certificate. I found it came back here last May for the elders meeting, and I found my birth certificate that I've got proof. Actually, I think I sent it on to Thailand, but I have the proof that I was born 80 years ago. It's a certified birth certificate with my footprint on it. But, my feet have grown considerably. And so, I felt, it's good to know that I'm actually legal and recognized human being in this society. I have proof that I was born. But then for a few days in Thailand, not having passports and so forth, as nobody, didn't have a monk's identification booklet. And, I'm in a country I'm not a citizen of either. And who am I? But in some ways, it's kind of a relief, not to have all this stuff. I wouldn't, think of me free from passports, identification cards, iPads, and so forth. All the stuff that tend to affirm that I am this body, I am this person, I am this age, and I am this nationality, I am this gender, I exist. And of course, all these have the something wrong, Ajahn? His thermal flask exploded on it. And how much, we're at a time now where there's this mass media advertisements and so forth. Everything makes you very self-conscious, what you look like. And there's so many worries about obesity and and how to maintain a slim appearance and a beautiful complexion, and how to decrease the aging look, how to have cosmetic surgery so you don't look as old as your body is, because the society doesn't really like old people that much. And, we're not glamorous anymore or all that attractive. So, we worship beauty and youth and the more pleasant side of our existence. but recognize that this is just a worldly belief in that we are this human body. This is me. And how many of you are really just satisfied, totally content with what you look like? Or, how many people can really be thoroughly content and appreciate their appearance when they look in the mirror? And I've known people, who very beautiful people who you think that, well, they're so beautiful, they have everything, that everyone else would like, and yet you ask them, they're not content. The nose isn't exactly right. Michael Jackson was a good example, Continuous attempts to change one's appearance to what one would like. Well, this is not a reflective mind, is it? It's a mind that we're lost into, wanting to become, get something, change something, stop the aging process, live forever, not die, have a beautiful complexion and all the rest, and be attractive and beautiful forever, are wishes and desires that are common to human society anywhere. But that's not the way it is it? Life is not like that. And it never will be, even with the most advanced abilities with cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery, and modern medicine, because that's not the way it is. Sankharas aren't permanent. They're not sustainable. Their nature is change. And so the Buddha was pointing at change rather than to a perfect perception or a perfect ideal of how some condition should be. Well, this allows us in a society that's determined to make you discontented. Let's look at modern advertisements and advertising, and that wherever you go, there's always something better than what you have on offer. And they're always producing new versions, where last year's model isn't as good as the new improved one. What does this do to the mind? What does it do to you when you observe these things, these beautiful advertisements that want you to buy the latest product? Is it creates a desire or discontentment with what you have. But we can observe, then it's not like being a samana, like being samanas. Our aim is not to be caught in that momentum or to get perspective on it anyway. It's not that, we are so good that we don't have longings to look beautiful and so forth. It's not that these kind of desires never arise in our mind, but our relationship to these desires changes from the ignorant reaction to the wise understanding. Desire is like this. And you're observing change rather than the quality or the condition of the desire. Now, to observe change then isn't personal. We have to let the sense of a self, an ego, an identity with the body, with the conditions that we're experiencing. Let go of that in order to have the perspective on them of whatever is present now is changing. So this is the attitude, this is the way of insight meditation. It's a way of changing from becoming, trying to get something, some idea, some thought, some perception you have of what you'd like, to observing the desire for becoming, for becoming a stream enterer, becoming an Arahant, becoming an expert meditator, becoming and getting rid of your defilements and your bad habits and so forth. When we talk about good and bad, then from the personal level, about right and wrong, good and bad, high and low, and we're judging, isn't it? This is good, this is bad. And that's this good, bad, right, wrong. These are the conditions that we create with thinking, with language. It's about phenomena. It's about the quality of phenomena. So this is good. It's about phenomena. About a phenomena. This is a good thing. Is about something without really noticing or understanding that whatever it is, no matter how good it is, it's in the process of change. It's anicca. Or bad, a bad condition, ugly condition, nasty condition. See, these words, bad, ugly, nasty, are judgments, aren't they? About the quality of the condition itself. And this is fair enough in terms of this mortal realm that we're living in, is good, bad, right, and wrong in terms of the quality. But in terms of Dhamma, good, bad, right, and wrong are perceptions we create, judgments we make about phenomena. And it comes out of, when we're just stuck on that level, then we tend to make judgments about ourselves, about others, about the society we live in, about the world. So that's about, why does the world have to be like this? And try to answer that question. Why does the United Kingdom have to be like this? Why does England have to be like this? Why can't the Scots be just content and not want independence? Why not be just content? The Commonwealth countries, why can't they just be content with being Commonwealth and be content in the United Nations? Why can't Russia and the United States, why can't they get along and love each other? Wouldn't it be nice if President Obama and President Putin would hold hands and hug each other and take a course in Vipassana together? I mean, this would be very nice, but that's not the way it is. At this moment, anyway, they're busy. The Americans are condemning the Russians. They love to condemn the Russians anyway, and vice versa. And this is, why is it like this? And then you can make a good case for either side. Whose fault is it? And of course, it depends how you're culturally programmed to determine which side you're on. But in any case, it's the way it is. War, disagreement, competition, judgments, condemnations, revenge. All these are part of human history, aren't they? They're what makes what we go to movies, why we like cinema and see things about men fighting, boxing, fighting, killing. Sexual activities are all exciting to us, and it's not about it's about adultery and things like this that are even more exciting than having a nice story about a man and woman falling in love, living happily ever after, without any problems. Imagine how boring that would be. A movie where the boy, beautiful girl, and the handsome boy fall in love. Their parents are totally agreed. Everybody's happy. They have no obstructions, no problems. They're both very healthy, and the society is supportive in every way. And they get married, and they're faithful to each other and live happily ever after. And that would be rather boring, wouldn't it? It wouldn't make much money anyway. I say, look, what about a bhikkhu? Imagine a movie being made about a good bhikkhu who keeps all the rules and practices hard and becomes enlightened. It'd be boring, but a bhikkhu who breaks all the rules, that'd be much more interesting. In the Thai newspapers, in Bangkok newspapers, it's not, the headlines are not about good bhikkhus practicing in the right way. It's about, if it's about bhikkhus, it's about the naughty ones that break the rules. Because that's exciting, isn't it? Breaking rules and killing, fighting. These are all exciting human activities. Excitement is, to observe excitement, wanting excitement, because so like monasticism is, our way of life, celibacy, and then not carrying money and so forth. This can be very boring. You're not supposed to have romantic liaisons and so forth, and you're trying to live to this impeccable standard of the Vinaya, and then we chant Pali chants. It's not like grand opera or rock. Not even supposed to. You're supposed to do this monotone kind of chanting, and so it can sound boring too. And then so much of boredom is a part of monastic life, because boredom is a condition that arises and ceases. If it's a condition that we don't want usually. We like to feel have interesting things to do, or feel that we're needed and have our life has a purpose. We want to feel good. We want to feel we're getting somewhere. We want, so boredom then comes, and we don't want that. So we look for something interesting to do, something to distract ourselves. But many of us have actually cultivated boredom. At least speaking for myself, I remember, in the training years in Thailand, where I was, you're at some monastery, some branch monastery where nothing much happens. If you're with Luang Por Chah, it's much more interesting, because he was becoming so well known, and you meet people and they come and go and there's more activities. But some of the branch monasteries are really boring. And then, because nothing much going on, and you're stuck there. Same thing, you get up the same time, get ready to go on alms round, same routine, eat at the same time, And online, so we're looking at nothing much of a change, and it gets monotonous and boring. But yet, that mental state is a state to observe, because we create it. We create that emotion, that feeling, that reaction we call boring. And anything we create, then we can observe it as a phenomenon, as a condition, rather than as some kind of personal quality which is good or bad, right or wrong. Another thing that people are really interested in is consciousness. Because, say, right now, all of us are experiencing consciousness. Is anyone not conscious? Raise your hand. This is taken for granted, the consciousness is, and yet in the Western culture, we're very much identified. Consciousness is in me. We think that the body is holding the consciousness. That's the Western view. That's not the Buddhist one. And so when somebody's asleep, they're not conscious. Or if they're in a coma, they're not conscious. We think, we believe that consciousness is when we're actually awake and thinking and can react and respond in normal ways. And then unconscious means that, you're not aware, you're not acting normally, you don't know what's going on. And then sleep consciousness, when you're in deep sleep, you don't even know. And so we have these various views about what consciousness is. But in terms of the Buddha Dhamma, consciousness has no boundaries, not limited to the human form, to the brain, or to any place. And it's worthwhile to contemplate like this, to see it, to kind of use the word itself, consciousness or vijnana or citta. In Thailand, they use the word citta a lot, and that means knowing here now. It's when we're aware, consciousness, we can recognize pure consciousness. It's not something we have to find. It's not something that we have to get. It's just something we don't remember, we don't know, we aren't aware of it. And yet, consciousness is, just because you aren't aware of consciousness doesn't mean that you're unconscious, does it? It means you don't know what it is, because your world, your sense of yourself is all built on the changing conditions, what you're feeling, what you look like, your physical body, your mood of the time, your position, your hopes and desires. This is the real world for most people. This is reality. Let's say, I like to think right now, just reflecting, consciousness is the same for all of us. It's not like in me, and I have a consciousness in me and a consciousness in Ajahn Yanarato. It's different. And Ajahn Jitindra's consciousness is Ajahn Jutindra consciousness. Ajahn Sundara consciousness, they're all different, That's thinking, isn't it? That's creating thoughts with the idea of consciousness. But consciousness isn't about an individual, it's the way it is. It's here and now. And you can't find it. It's not like you've got to look for it, it's just waking up to it, recognizing it. So it's like sati sampantanya, this wake up, observe, rather than trying to get into a state of pure consciousness through grasping the idea that this is what you should do. You're grasping the idea of it, So it's not about thinking you've got to get it, but learning how to let go, how to relinquish conditioned phenomena to just be the knower of the way things are. All conditions are impermanent. Sape sankara anicca. And so, like, after all these years of developing meditation and this way of investigating conditioned phenomena and mindfully observing the way things are, I find it's true. All conditions are impermanent. Simple as that. And yet that can be a hackneyed phrase, like, so what? Because on the level of an interesting idea, it might be interesting at first, but if you just grasp the concepts of all conditions are impermanent, then of course you get bored with your own repetitive thinking, and you want something more interesting to hold on to. But if you begin to break through the illusions, like because you understand the concept means that you understand anicca. You understand the concept of anicca, but say in a lifetime of mindfulness, you're aware of anicca because that's what you're experiencing all the time. Because this continuous, inexorable changingness is going on all the time. And it's not something that you can stop, but you can recognize. And to be able to abide in contentment and knowing of change means letting go. Doesn't mean destroying or denying or repressing. It means releasing yourself from the delusions of the ego, of the sense of yourself as the human form, or the personality, or the emotions you have, or the identities, your memories and thoughts and habits, which can be good and bad, right and wrong. But our relationship now, say within Sangha life, is no longer, we're in a form that's based on doing good and refrain from doing evil. So our relationship to ourselves and the society we live in is based on ethics and morality, so Vinaya is all about, respecting life in general. We're not using, our lives to delude ourselves. Sometimes you think, well, mindfulness practices, we could, commit a murder mindfully. You could, if you want to get away with it, not get caught. You have the level of mindfulness necessary to be able to murder somebody and not get caught doing it and not being punished for it. But in terms of, like for monastics, if we have desire to murder somebody, because none of us would have such desire. but it means that, we have, our very form, the robe and so forth, our commitment to this form is one where we observe that desire rather than follow it or repress it, identify with it or feel guilty about it. Our relationship to sankhara is knowing rather than approving, disapproving, liking, or disliking. But our relationship to the society, then, one is to do good and refrain from doing bad with body and speech. So this is the way it is. And it's, even though it's the way it is a simple phrase, and it can be said in a kind of negative way. What's the way it is? What can you do about it? So what? And that's not it. It's not about just resigning yourself to negativity or depression or disappointment. It's not about. That's not the way. That's not the attitude of the way it is. The way it is just it's an alert attention to change, where the resigned attitude, negative, cynical attitude about the way, that's the way it is not letting go. It's merely operating from a kind of disdain or cynicism, and it's still the ego, isn't it? It's still, I've had enough. Life sucks, and it's the way it is. So what can you do about it? Is not the mind of a samana. But the way it is a useful term to remind yourself when you're getting caught up in your emotional habits and worldly problems. And, people get very heated over just political issues. I mean, in Thailand this past year, the political issues between the red shirts and the yellow shirts. I mean, I've known very cool people who've been practicing meditation for years with very good teachers. When they get into the subject of yellow and red, suddenly something takes off, they've lost it. And they go into tirades of anger and resentment and blame because they've taken sides and they know if you're a yellow shirt, the red is all wrong and we don't want that, and the opposite, if you're a red shirt, then the yellow. And they're not aware of what they're doing, they're not aware of what they're grasping and their mind state, because they're fully committed to a belief and a reaction, emotional reaction to that condition. For most of us, it wouldn't be nothing. Like those who aren't Thai, can sit here and what's the problem with red or yellow shirts? Who cares? Some people like red, some people like yellow. But for a Thai, just the term red shirt can bring up strong feeling. Or, being an American, I was brought up in the McCarthy era. I was in university, and it was dangerous to say anything positive about communism. I remember I was a first-year student in university, and I wrote I was always kind of rebelling against this American patriotism. And so I wrote a paper once about supporting communism, and the professor took me aside and she said, I actually liked your paper, but I think you better be careful because, this was the time when they were arresting or condemning people who said anything at all positive about communism. So the way to ruin somebody's career in the 1950s, absolutely ruin their career, was to spread the rumor they were communists. And that happened quite a lot. If you wanted to if you had a revengeful mind, you could really destroy somebody by claiming that that person was a communist, and that would ruin them. Because the word communist, nobody really understood what it really meant. It just meant it was wrong and bad. Same with, religion. You're being brought up as a Christian. You're brought up to think Christianity's right and the rest are wrong. So, you're thinking that somebody says, what about Buddhism? And you say it's wrong. How do you know it's wrong? Because you don't know anything about it. Well, it's not Christian. It's not a very intelligent way to think, but it's quite natural, isn't it? if you're conditioned to favor one thing and hold the prejudice against its opposite. Where in the way it is, it's observing that, the prejudices that one is experiencing in the present moment, and the biases we have, the cultural assumptions. We all have assumptions we acquire from our cultural background. And they arise and cease, they're conditioned phenomena. But pure consciousness and awareness is not about culture. It's not about which is the best culture or which is better or worse or right or wrong. It's noticing the simplicity that the Buddha emphasized over and over again. All conditions are impermanent. What arises ceases. Anicca vada sankhara. All conditions are impermanent. And this is what, when in the Thai tradition, when somebody dies, if you notice that they would, in Thailand, they'd invite the monks to the place where the corpse is, and we chant anicca vada sankhara ubattavaya tamino ubachittava niruchanti de sanghupasamo sukho. Not a very long chant, but it's all about impermanence. What is born dies, what arises ceases, and in its ceasing is peace. When you allow things to cease, conditions to cease, then you'll begin to discern peace, what real peace is. Consciousness is real peace. It's not exciting. But if you're always looking for excitement and averse to boredom, then you'll never notice, you'll never understand, you'll never realize true peacefulness or true contentment. So I offer this for your reflection.